Even after all these years, the Switch still surprises me with what it has to offer. Whilst yes, it may not be as technically powerful as the PS4 or the PS5, this little hybrid console always delivers brilliant exclusives and many impossible ports. During its lifespan, we've seen games like Doom Eternal, Wolfenstein 2 and The Witcher 3 making their way to Switch and delivering some fantastic ports. And hot on the heels of these ports is the release of Techlands' 2015 open world action horror game Dying Light, as it finally makes the jump to Switch with all its DLC in tow. So let's see how they did, shall we? Coming from the developers behind Dead Island, Dying Light had a lot of hype behind it when it launched way back in 2015. It took the Dead Island template and built upon it to create a cool and thrilling game. Over the years, Techland have supported the game with loads of paid and free content, leading up to the release of the sequel Dying Light 2 next year. So it's great to see the game finally on Switch. Onto the story now, and Dying Light follows an undercover agent called Kyle as he visits the fictional region of Haran. He quickly becomes bitten by a zombie, but in this world there's an injection called Zombrex which prevents people from turning into them. Anyway, Kyle soon gets involved with a local conflict and help the team of folk out with all sorts of trouble they're having from this sort of warlord guy who's causing all sorts of mess and trouble. Overall, the story isn't too bad, and the voice acting is pretty well done, and the tale is interesting enough. It kind of feels a bit like Far Cry's story in its approach. Onto the gameplay now, and if you play Dead Island, you've got a pretty good idea on how Dying Light plays. It's set in a huge open world full of zombies, and you go around collecting materials to build your own weapons to take down the undead horde. The weapons you can make can be anything from knives, swords, to even a guitar. You can also use guns, but they attract loads of zombies to your location, so you do have to be quite careful. Weapons do break after a while, but thankfully it's nowhere near as aggressive as it was in Breath of the Wild. Here you can enjoy the weapon, and if it breaks you can repair it with relative ease. Dying Light handles weapon degradation really well, way better than what Breath of the Wild did. But the biggest thing Dying Light does that sets it apart is its parkour system. Feeling very much like EA's cult classic Mirror's Edge, Carl can run at really fast speeds and climb and jump off any building in the game. It's so damn thrilling even after all these years, and it's also easy to control, so within no time you'll be jumping around like a pro. You can even upgrade Carl to do even more abilities, and I really like how progression is handled here. You can craft new stuff, learn to jump over enemies, and even learn not to take damage from a high fall. It's all great stuff. Another big gameplay style here is the night and day cycle. In the daytime it's pretty easy going experience, as most of the zombies are just about docile, with only a few powerful ones scattered about. But once night time hits, the hunter soon becomes the hunted, with the tables being turned, as there's hordes of incredibly strong and vicious creatures out there that will end you in a couple of hits, and will stalk you around the map. There's a risk and reward aspects to this, as the game does offer some nice incentives to go out at night, but sometimes it's best just to stay in a safe house and wait until morning. Most of the missions revolve around going here and there collecting stuff or defeating a strong enemy, but honestly it doesn't matter because the game is a complete blast to play with how it controls and how fun the combat is. Even on the Switch, combat and movement feels fluid and just so much fun to play. As for the length of the game, Dying Light is already a pretty lengthy game, taking you a good 20 to 25 hours to reach the game's mainline conclusion, and that's not counting all the side missions and activities there is to do, which could easily add another load of hours. Plus, as this is the Ultimate Edition, you do have the following campaigns, such as the Bozark Horde challenges, the Howl Raid stuff, Cuisine and Cargo. There's a heck of a lot of content here to fully see everything, and complete everything will take you well over 50 hours, especially with the following campaign. It's incredible that everything is here in its entirety, and all of it is on the cartridge with only an ever so small update when you first start the game. Now for the all-important technical side of things. As we all know, with Switch ports, they could go either way. You could either get a really solid port or an unstable mess. but thankfully Dying Light on the Switch is the former. Back in the day in 2015, it was quite a technical showcase and still looks great to this day, and on the Switch this still rings true. The game's resolution has been toned down, it's around about 720 to 900p, and some of the textures and shadows aren't as refined, but overall it still looks like Dying Light and very close to the PS4 version, though there is quite a lot of popping at time. Whilst in dock, it does look great in motion. It's the portable play where the game really does shine, as it looks super impressive and arguably the best way to play it. Onto the frame rate now, and Dying Light on the Switch is quite a demanding game, so I was expecting quite a few frame rate drops, but actually the game surprised me, as it mostly sticks to 30 FPS pretty much all the time. But there is an issue with the frame rate, but it's due to it being an uncapped frame rate, so you'll see the FPS jump to the mid 30s to even 40 FPS, which can be quite annoying for some. Hopefully there'll be an option in a future update to cap the frame rate, but overall the frame rate is very impressive considering how many zombies are on the screen at the same time. Also, for those who are physical collectors like myself, Dying Light has its own cool edition that includes maps, booklets, as well as stickers, which is a nice little inclusion for physical collectors. It's nice to see companies doing more lavish physical editions these days. Conclusion time now, and Dying Light on the Switch has become yet another brilliant Switch port that defies the possibilities and gives Switch owners an incredibly good time. Dying Light still is that same great open world zombie game from 2015, but with a cornucopia of amount of content all on the cartridge. It's a blast to play in both single player and multiplayer and offers the full fat Dying Light experience. A few technical cutbacks here and there doesn't take away from a great looking title and another must have Switch game. So with that, I'm giving Dying Light on the Switch an 8.5 out of 10 with a title of great. As always, thank you for watching my review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you could like and subscribe, that would be totally awesome. And as always, thank you for watching. And until next time, happy gaming. Bye.